summer like I am and seed starting, well, I'm going to show you a foolproof way to start seeds even in the snow called winter sowing on this episode of Grow Baby Grow. You may be asking yourself, what is winter sowing and why is there no snow? Well, I live in Erie, PA, where it snows 6 months a year. That's right, folks. Not on the Arctic Circle, not in Alaska, right here in good old Erie, PA. I'm going to insert some pictures somewhere in the frame eventually so you can see that it snowed April Fools. Ha! Mother Nature got me again. So what is winter sowing? Winter sowing is basically taking and recycling used drink containers that are either clear or opaque like this and turning them into mini greenhouses that you can put your seeds in, and then you tape it shut, set it and forget it, pretty much. That's one of the benefits. There are many, and we'll talk about the benefits in just a minute. Okay, y'all, you might be asking yourself, what do I need to do this winter sowing? Well, it's super simple, and you'll need a few things. First of all, you need a clear drinking container. It could be from milk. Make sure you wash it out, or water, or a soda bottle, as long as it's opaque and or clear. Second of all, of course, you'll need your seed starting mix. You could use potting soil, but be prepared if you do, you might get a few weeds. You're going to need some water so that you can wet your soil. It's helpful to use a bucket or a large tote so you can mix it up when you get your hands dirty. Don't forget your favorite seeds. You'll also need some tape and a Sharpie so that you can label your projects with the type of seed and the date. It's helpful to do that because then you can track your progress and it's fun for little kids to see what's growing on. Lastly, you'll need a box cutter or a knife. This was my dad's and I'm allowed to use it because I'm a big girl. Kids, don't use a knife without your parents' supervision. Okay guys, let's get started growing. First thing you're going to need to do is prep your container. Now I've already rinsed these out, but if you rinse it out as soon as it's empty, you probably don't even need to use soap. Of course, if you use a water jug, no need to rinse it out. First thing you want to do is make sure you take off any lids because we want air and water to be able to get in here. You don't need that. Second thing you want to do is take off any labels. Now some of these labels come off easily. If it does like that, don't worry about it. Won't make that big of a difference. Say hello to my dog, Mr. Fluffy Pants. I'm going to do this over here because my dog is dangerous. Take the label off. Bam. Now your containers are ready to be cut. You always want to start with the top and bottom holes first because if you cut it open, it's difficult to get the holes in there. Wait for it. I usually do between 4 and 5 holes. If you find your soil getting soggy, you can always add more. 4 or 5 slits on the bottom. That's for drainage. And then 4 or 5 slits at the top. And this is for ventilation because our little plants need air too. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and prep the bottom of this one. This one making big holes. That's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Plants don't know the difference. I think 4 holes is good for that one. Make some holes at the top here. Next thing we're going to do is about 2/3 of the way down, we're going to slit it all the way across and leave a little space. I'll show you how, just 1 second here. That's why I chose this knife, because it is sharp and makes easy work. If you're using scissors, it's probably going to be a little bit more challenging, but it can be done. See how I left that little bit there? It makes a really easy hinge for when you have to tape it back together. Same thing with this one. I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way down, and that's where I'm going to cut. You want to be able to have 2, 3, even 4 inches of soil in there, so your seeds can develop healthy root systems. Now, if you make a mistake and cut all the way through, no big deal, like I just did. You're just going to have to hold it together a little bit while you're taping it. Maybe get someone to help you. That's the first step. Okay, y'all, now we're on to step 2. You want to go ahead and get your Sharpie out. You might be able to use a crayon. Even if you use Sharpie, it might rinse off. It's happened to me before, but don't be discouraged. The more you grow, the more you'll know what the seedlings look like. Now, the reason that we're going to write the name of our seeds on here before we get any soil in it or add any water is because once the container gets wet, it's more likely that your ink won't stick. So for today's video, I'm going to go ahead and plant some basil, dark opal, and some nasturtiums, which are actually an edible salad green. And you can eat the flowers, so that's even better. My niece loves eating the flowers. They got a little spicy kick to them. So for me, because I'm familiar with these seeds, I'm just going to write nasty on there, because I'm a boss. And for this one, I'm just going to write basil, because I'm not growing any other varieties of basil this year. Once again, this is Mr. Fluffy Pants. We love him, don't ya? Good thing he's cute. That's what I tell myself. And depending how long this process may take you, if you're working with a dog and or little children, luckily mine is asleep right now, you may want to get yourself a handy dandy energy drink. And pretend it's holy water. For step number 3, y'all, you'll want to get your soil, your container, and your water. I use a container for this because it just makes cleanup easier, and I like to wet my soil before I put them in the containers. You could water from over top after you plant the seeds, but this way we make sure that the soil gets evenly moist. Also, kids love to get their hands dirty, and if you're like me, so do grown-ups. Now, there are a lot of benefits to winter seed sowing. One of them is you can start this in the first of the year. Another benefit is nature does almost all the work from you. You just set it and forget it. Make sure you put your container where it's not covered. It'll get enough water and enough light all on its own. A third benefit is you don't have to buy expensive seed starter kits. And oftentimes when I've done that, half the seeds die anyways. Also, you don't need any fancy shelf or light. Mother Nature will take care of it all for you. The fourth benefit I can think of just off the top of my head is that you won't have to worry about pesticides and bugs getting to your little baby crops. Because each of these is a self-contained ecosystem, there won't be as many pests overall and or fungal diseases, which is a common killer of baby sprouts. My soil's pretty much done here. Don't worry about that, don't need those. You take your soil and it should be able to make a ball in your hand. When you squeeze it, no water should come out. And if you make a ball, it should stay into a solid form in your hand. If it falls apart, that means add a little bit more water. Remember, you can always add more, but you can't take it out. So go slow and steady on the water until it feels evenly moist. Step number 5 today is fill your containers. Now it says to fill them about 1 inch from the top, but just keep in mind that you want at least 3 inches of soil at the bottom. a really cool activity because you don't have to be scientific. You don't have to follow all the specific guidelines on the back of your seeds. For instance, that's about how I like to fill mine up. If you look on the back of the seeds, you'll notice that it'll say different months and spacing needs and all of these things that I really don't even pay attention to, especially if you're doing it this way. Now, if you were going to plant these directly in the ground, you would want to pay attention to that information. But since we're putting ours in little tiny greenhouses, we don't have to worry about that. Even if you start them early, they'll grow all on their own. And you'll come to find that some seeds do better than others. It's all kind of an experiment, and it's all a learning process. So you just got to give them a start and let nature do its part. I'll fill one more up for you guys, but this is a great activity for little kids. Their hands are just the right size to get this soil in here, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of how this works. You don't measure it. There's not an amount of cups or ounces. Just put it in there, and you just want some space at the top. And there you go. Okay, folks, on to step number 6. We're almost to the finish line. Now, on this one, I ripped it up at the top, but that's because the name is right there. I'm going to give you guys a little pro tip that took me many, 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 many years to learn on my own. You want to give your seeds a little love tap. And I'm actually going to open mine upside down. That way, if this disappears, which it will, you'll still have your name right there. You'll know what's going on. Or in my case, what's growing on. Now, I'm going to use the nasturtiums. Maybe y'all be able to see these seeds. They're a little bit bigger. They're about the size of peas. I give them a little tamping down, and I usually put 4 or 5 per container. If you have really small seeds, sometimes it's hard to get just 3 or 4 in there, and that's okay too. And after you put your seeds in, you want to take a light layer of soil and put it right on top. Now you don't want to smash it down really hard because you want your soil to be nice and loose so the roots can go through easily. Let's find my other nasty jug. I guess you could wear gloves if you wanted to, but I'm not about that life. And I like getting my hands dirty. Actually, studies show that 5 minutes with your hands in soil can help your body go from fight or flight response to the tend and nurture response, which is perfect in my book. I don't need any more stress in my life, and I know you guys don't either. Probably just about a centimeter or less of soil on top. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these planted up, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Okay, y'all. Thanks for staying with me, and don't forget to give this show a like if you appreciate the content. Leave a comment down below if you've done this before, and share with others so we can all work together to help make the world a better place. What we're going to do now is seal in our greenhouses. I use clear tape. My sister said you can use duct tape, but the more light we allow in here, the better your seedlings will do. I usually do a few times around. Because you are going to get some water in here. Some of the tape's going to fall off by the end of the season, and that's okay. A perfect garden is no fun anyways. 1 down, 300 to do. Okay, y'all. Thanks for staying tuned with me all the way to the end. Make sure you give the video a like and leave a comment down below with what you're growing this year. The last step is to take your little babies and put them in a safe space. Somewhere where your fur babies, or your little babies, or your big babies won't knock them over. Ideally, you want it in a sunny spot with 6 to 8 hours of sun. And also try to avoid places that are covered up, like under an awning or right up against the house, because if that happens, you're gonna have to water these bad boys yourself. You can always take a look in there, see what's growing on. You can tell by the color of the soil. If it looks lighter, you'll know you need to add a little bit of moisture. I like to put them out where me and my kids can see them. It helps spark conversations about why it's important to grow plants, what do plants need to grow, and questions like that make their little minds go, Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You want to go ahead, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and so that you won't miss a minute of Grow Baby Grow.